Good morning, class 7. Today we shall revise two things. Firstly, a poem, The Shed, and a chapter, Ashes That Made Trees Bloom. Both the things you have done earlier. So I will quickly revise the things with you, and wherever explanation is needed, I will keep on doing that. First, we will do the poem, The Shed. Do you know what a shed is? A cow shed, a tool shed, a wood shed, for example. It's a small room away from the main house for storing or keeping things, animals, tools, vehicles, etc. Ask your partner if he or she has ever seen a shed. This asking work you will do later on when you will meet your partners in the school. But what is a shed? It is a kind of a small room where animals can be kept, or some belongings, some things can be kept. Like it is an extra room which is not inside the main house, which is a little away from the main house. Now let us start with the poem. There's a shed at the bottom of our garden. You can see the picture in your book. There is a shed in the bottom of the garden with a spider's web hanging across the door. The hinges are rusty. Hinges means the joints. The joints of the door are rusty and creak in the wind. They are rusty, and that is why they make sound in the wind. When I am in bed, I lie and I listen. I'll open that door one day. So the poet is lying in his bedroom, and he is looking at that shed which is at the bottom of his garden, and he can see a spider's web also hanging across the door. The door is rusty, that means because it has not been used much, so it has rusted, and the joints have rusted, and because of rust they make sound when the wind blows. And the poet thinks that one day I will go there and I will open that door. Second stanza. There's a dusty old window around at the side with 3 cracked panes of glass. Now, when he keeps looking at the shed, he sees a dusty old window, an old window which is full of dust. Again, why? Because it has not been used. Around at the side with 3 cracked panes of glass. The window pane is cracked. I often think there's someone staring at me each time that I pass. I'll peep through that window one day. And the poet is saying that when he passes by the window, he feels that somebody is peeping outside from the window, and the poet wants that one day he will also peep inside and see what is inside that window, what is inside that shed. Third stanza. My brother says there's a ghost in the shed who hides under the rotten floorboards, and if I ever dare to set foot inside, he'll jump out and chop off my head, but I'll take a peek one day. In the third stanza, the poet is saying that his brother says, the poet's brother says that there is a ghost inside the shed, and the ghost is hiding under the rotten floorboards. The floor of that shed is wooden, and under that wooden floorboard, the ghost is hiding in the shed. And if the poet will dare to go inside, then the ghost is going to come out and he will chop off the head of the poet. He will cut the poet's head. But the poet still feels that one day he will have a quick look inside the shed to see what is there. Is there a ghost or not? Somebody is hiding inside or not? Last stanza. I know that there isn't really a ghost. Now in this last stanza, the poet is saying that he knows very well that his brother only keeps on threatening him. Actually, there is nobody inside the shed. There is no ghost inside. My brother tells lies to keep the shed for his den. For his den means when he plays hide and seek, he will use who will use? The poet's brother. The poet's brother wants to keep the shed for his den. That means he wants to hide there when he will play. That is why he is telling all these false stories that there is a ghost inside. There isn't anyone staring or making strange noises, and the spider has been gone from his web since I don't know when. I'll go into that shed one day soon, but not just yet. So, in these lines, the poet says that he knows very well the truth about the shed. He knows that there is no ghost, there is nobody who is staring from inside, there is nobody who is making strange noises. Also, he knows that the spider who had made its web one day has gone away long back, and I don't know when. The poet does not know when the spider had gone, but he knows that there is not even a small spider there. And he says that I will go into that shed one day soon. Soon a day will come when the poet will go inside the shed and see what is there. But not just yet. But not in a day or two, not very soon, but in the near future he is going to go one day and peep inside the shed. So this is about a simple poem, The Shed, written by Frank Flynn. Now children, I have been telling you earlier also, since your exams are coming, multiple choice questions will be the pattern of the question paper. So please go through every detail in every poem, in every chapter. You should know every detail of every lesson, you should know every detail of every poem, and you should also know the poet's name in every poem. Don't miss out that. And whatever fill in the blanks or exercises we have done, or whatever word meanings are printed in the book, whether it is of the poem, whether it is in the chapters, don't miss out anything. All word meanings, the poem's name, poet's name, all details of all the chapters, the question answers, very short answer type which can be converted into multiple choice questions. Please prepare everything. Don't learn the lengthy answers, don't learn the short answers, but very short answers, if they are of one line or one word, then they can be easily converted into multiple choice questions. So prepare them also and prepare everything thoroughly. Now let us start another chapter, The Ashes That Made Trees Bloom. You have done this chapter earlier. The moral of this chapter is that we should not be greedy, because whatever we are doing now, we will have to bear the consequences of our deeds in the future, in our future life. So we should be noble, we should do good deeds, and we should not be greedy at all. This is the moral of this story. Now I am quickly reading the lesson. Wherever explanation is required or wherever word meanings are required, I will keep on telling you side by side. This is a story about an honest and hard-working old couple and their pet dog. The neighbors are troublesome and the dog dies a sad death. The spirit of the dog gives solace and support to his master in unexpected ways. Solace means peace, comfort. The ashes that made trees bloom. In the good old days of the daimyos are in the 19th century, wealthy landowners were called as daimyos. In the good old days of the daimyos, there lived an old couple whose only pet was a little dog. Having no children, they loved it as though it were a baby. The old dame means this old couple. The old dame made it a cushion of blue crepe, and at mealtime, Muko, for that it was its name, the dog's name was Muko, would sit on it as snug as any cat. Snug is comfortable. The kind people fed the pet with tidbits of fish from their own chopsticks and all the boiled rice it wanted. Thus treated, the dumb creature loved its protectors like a being with a soul. That means like a human child. So this couple also loved their pet dog very dearly, and in return the pet dog also loved the lady and the man like the child loves his parents. The old man, being a rice farmer, went daily with a hoe or spade into the fields, working hard from morning until Otento Sama, as the sun is called, had gone down behind the hills. Every day the dog followed him to work, never once harming the white heron that walked in the footsteps of the old man to pick up the worms. For the old fellow was patient and kind to everything that had life, and often turned up a sword on purpose to give food to the birds. One day the dog came running to him, putting his paws against his legs and mentioning with his head to some spot behind. The old man at first thought his pet was only playing and did not mind it. But the dog kept on winning, that means he kept on making sounds and running to and fro after some minutes. Then the old man followed the dog a few yards to a place where the animal began a lively scratching. Thinking it was possibly a buried bone or a bit of fish, the old man struck his hoe in the earth when, lo, a pile of gold gleamed before him. So the dog was scratching the ground because gold, a pile of gold, had been buried by somebody there. Thus, in an hour, the old couple were made rich. The good souls bought a piece of land, made a feast for their friends, and gave plentifully to their poor neighbors. As for the dog, they petted him till they nearly smothered him with kindness. Now, in the same village, there lived a wicked old man and his wife, not a bit sensitive and kind, who had always kicked and scolded all dogs whenever any passed their house. Hearing of their neighbor's good luck, they coaxed the dog. That means they persuaded the dog to come in their house also. They coaxed the dog into their garden and set before him bits of fish and other dainties, other good delicious food, hoping he would find treasure for them. But the dog, being afraid of their cruel pair, would neither eat nor move. So why did this neighbor, the husband and the wife, allow the dog to come in their garden? Because they were expecting that as the dog had made his master rich, similarly they might also become rich one day. They were greedy. Then they dragged him out of the doors, taking a spade and hoe with them. No sooner had the dog got near a pine tree growing in the garden than he began to paw and scratch the ground as if a mighty treasure lay beneath. Now the dog was again scratching the ground near the pine tree. "Quick, wife, hand me the spade and hoe," cried the greedy old fool as he danced with joy. Now this old man was very happy because he was expecting that since the dog is scratching the ground, again there must be some pile of gold and it will make them also rich. Then the covetous old fellow, covetous means greedy, the covetous old fellow with a spade and with the old crone is the old woman, that was his wife, with a spade and the old crone with a hoe began to dig, but there was nothing but a dead kitten, the smell of which made them drop their tools and shut their noses. Furious at the dog, the old man kicked and beat him to death. The old woman finished the work by nearly chopping off his head with the sharp hoe. They then flung him, that means threw him, into the hole and heaped the earth over his carcass. Carcass means dead body. So why did the old lady and her husband kill this dog? Because when they dug the ground, they found a dead kitten and they did not find any pile of gold for themselves. That is why they were very angry and they killed the dog and buried him there. The owner of the dog heard of the death of his pet and, mourning for him as if he had been his own child, went at night under the pine tree. He set up some bamboo tubes in the ground, such as are used before tombs, in which he put fresh flowers, as you can see the picture. Then he laid a cup of water and a tray of food on the grave and burned several costly sticks of incense. He mourned a great while. He mourned a great while over his pet, calling him many dear names as if he were alive. That night the spirit of the dog appeared to him in a dream and said, "Cut down the pine tree over my grave." You can see the pine trees over the grave. "And make from it a mortar." Mortar means a bowl for your rice pastry and a mill for your bean sauce. So the old man chopped down the tree and cut out of the middle of the trunk a section about 2 feet long. With great labor, partly by fire, partly by the chisel. Chisel is an instrument for cutting the tree. He scraped out a hollow place as big as a small bowl. He then made a long-handled hammer of wood, such as is used for pounding rice. Pounding means crushing or grinding rice. When New Year's time drew near, he wished to make some rice pastry. When the rice was all boiled, Granny put it into the mortar. The old man lifted his hammer to pound the mass into dough, and the bowls fell heavy and fast till the pastry was all ready for baking. Suddenly the whole mass turned into a heap of gold coins. When the old woman took the hand mill and, filling it with beans, began to grind, the gold dropped like rain. So all this process of making rice pastry and all, everything turned into gold coins and they started dropping like raindrops. Meanwhile, the envious neighbor peeped in at the window when the boiled beans were being ground. "Goody me!" cried the old hag, as she saw each dripping of sauce turning into yellow gold. Now she was very surprised to see that in their neighbor's house, whatever they are making, they are boiling the beans or they are making rice pastry, whatever they are making, it is turning into gold. As she saw each dripping of sauce turning into yellow gold, until in a few minutes the tub under the mill was full of a shining mass of gold. So the old couple were rich again. The next day, the stingy and wicked neighbor, stingy means miserly means conjuice. The stingy and wicked neighbor came and borrowed the mortar and magic mill. Now they also thought that they will use the same mortar and they will use the same magic mill to make the rice pastry, and they will also become rich because it will turn into gold coins. They filled one with boiled rice and the other with beans. Then the old man began to pound and the woman to grind. But at the first blow and turn, the pastry and sauce turned into a foul mass of worms. They did not become gold coins, they became worms. Still more angry at this, they chopped the mill into pieces to use as firewood. Not long after that, the good old man dreamed again, and the spirit of the dog spoke to him, telling him how the wicked people had burned the mill made from the pine tree. "Take the ashes of the mill, sprinkle them on the withered trees, and they will bloom again," said the dog spirit. The old man awoke and went at once to his wicked neighbor's house, where he found the miserable old pair sitting at the edge of their square fireplace, in the middle of the floor, smoking and spinning. From time to time, they warmed their hands and feet with the blaze from some bits of the mill, while behind them lay a pile of the broken pieces. The good old man humbly asked for the ashes, though the covetous couple, covetous means greedy couple, turned up their noses at them. Turned up their noses means they did not treat this man kindly, and they looked down upon him. Though the covetous couple turned up their noses at him and scolded him as if he were a thief, they let him fill his basket with the ashes. On coming home, the old man took his wife into the garden. It being winter, their favorite cherry tree was bare. That means it was without any flowers and even without any leaves. He sprinkled a pinch of ashes on it, and lo, it sprouted blossoms. That means it was filled with flowers immediately. It sprouted blossoms until it became a cloud of pink blooms. Pink colored flowers were completely covered. The tree was now filled with pink flowers, which perfumed the air. You can see the picture, there are pink flowers. The news of this filled the village, and everyone ran out to see the wonder. The covetous couple also heard the story, and gathering up the remaining ashes of the mill, kept them to make withered trees bloom. Now they also wanted to repeat the same activity, and they took some ashes so that they could also sprinkle the ashes on the trees which were without any flowers and leaves, and same result would happen. But let us see it happened or not. The kind old man, hearing that his lord the daimyo was to pass along the high road near the village, set out to see him, taking his basket of ashes. As the train approached, he climbed up into an old withered cherry tree that stood by the wayside. Now, in the days of the daimyos, it was the custom, when their lord passed by, for all the loyal people to shut up their high windows. They even pasted them fast with a slip of paper, so as not to commit the impertinence of looking down on his lordship. That means in those days there was a rule that when the daimyos, that is the lord, used to pass on the streets, then the people had to shut their windows, and they did not have to make a mistake of looking down or having a glance of their lords. All the people along the road would fall upon their hands and knees and remain prostrate until the procession passed by. So in respect, they would sit on their knees, and they would lie on the ground, putting their hands and knees on the ground till the procession passed by. The train drew nearer. One tall, competent man marched ahead, crying out to the people by the way, "Get down on your knees, get down on your knees," and everyone kneeled down while the procession was passing. Suddenly, the leader of the van caught sight of an aged man up in the tree. He was about to call out to him in an angry tone, but seeing he was such an old fellow, he pretended not to notice him and passed him by. So when the daimyo's palanquin drew near, the old man, taking a pinch of ashes from his basket, scattered it over the tree. In a moment, it burst into blossom. The delighted daimyo ordered the train to be stopped and got out to see the wonder. Calling the old man to him, he thanked him and ordered presents of silk robes, sponge cake, fans, and other rewards to be given him. He even invited him to his castle. Castle is the palace. So the old man went gleefully, happily home to share his joy with his dear old wife. But when the greedy neighbor heard of it, he took some of the magic ashes and went out on the highway. There he waited until a daimyo's train came along. And instead of kneeling down like the crowd, he climbed a withered cherry tree. Now, since this man was greedy, he was now again trying to imitate what the old man did. And like the old man, he also decided to sit on the cherry tree. When the daimyo himself was almost directly under him, he threw a handful of ashes over his tree, which did not change a particle. Now, this greedy man also threw the ashes when the procession was passing by, but the tree did not turn into blossom. The wind flew the fine dust into the noses and ashes of the daimyo and his wife. Now see what blunder happened. Instead of converting the cherry tree into a tree full of flowers, the dust, the ashes which was being sprinkled by this greedy man, they fell into the noses and in the eyes of the daimyo and his wife. Such sneezing and choking. Now they started sneezing and their throat choked because the ashes through their nose, they had inhaled the ashes inside and they were having choking in their throat. It spoiled all the pomp and dignity of the procession. The man whose business it was to cry, "Get down on your knees," seized the old fool by the collar, dragged him from the tree and tumbled him and his ash basket into the ditch by the road. Now what punishment was given to this greedy man? The man who was asking all the other spectators that the procession is coming, kneel down, kneel down. This man caught hold of this greedy man who was throwing ashes, and he caught hold of him by his collar and he dragged him from the tree and threw him in a ditch which was near the road. Then beating him soundly, he left him for dead. He was beaten so much, this greedy man was beaten so much that he was dead. Thus the wicked old man died in the mud, but the kind friend of the dog dwelt in peace and plenty, and both he and his wife lived to a green old age. So the end of this greedy man's life was that he was beaten to death, whereas the old man and his wife, who were the real friends of the dog, they were leading a very rich life, they were leading a very happy life, they had peace in their life, they had plenty of money with them, they had everything which they needed to lead a happy and a prosperous life, and they lived to a green old age. That means till their old age they led a happy and prosperous life. They had everything with them, they had everything in their house, and there was no scarcity. They had everything they needed to lead a happy life till their old age. So what do we learn from this lesson? We learn that we should not try to be greedy and we should not try to copy what others are doing. In this lesson, what the greedy man was doing, he was first of all not at all a kind-hearted person. He was a greedy person and he was a copycat. Whatever the old man and his wife did, this greedy man and his wife also tried to copy them. They had beaten the dog to death. They were such cruel people, they were selfish people, and they were greedy. So God gave them the punishment for their greed, for their cruelty, for their unkind behavior, and the end of their life was miserable. This greedy man was beaten so much that he died. So we learn a very important thing from this chapter, that we should not be greedy, we should be kind towards others, whether it is human beings or animals. We should not try to copy what others do. Let others do what they are doing, but we should do what we think is correct. If somebody is doing a wrong act, we also start copying him, or if somebody does something, we also start copying him. This is a wrong thing to do. So we must always keep in mind that God is seeing everything, God is seeing what we are doing. We will get the reward of whatever we do if we are doing something good, and we will get the punishment of whatever we are doing if we are doing something bad. If we will do evil to others, if we will be cruel towards others, if we will be selfish, then God is certainly going to punish us in some way or the other in our lives. And if we will be kind hearted, we will help others, we will not be greedy, we try to help others in every circumstances, whether it is human beings or animals, then God is going to certainly reward us in some way or the other. So we must lead a noble life, an honest life, a selfless life, and a life which is there to serve others, not a life full of greed, not a life full of selfishness or unkind behavior towards others. Now children, in your PDF you will see the question answers, and if you have already done all the question answers, then please don't start writing all of them again, let them remain as it is. But if you have earlier written in your rough copy, then obviously you will have to write everything in your fair copy. Complete your work, focus on preparing for your upcoming online exam. All the best, prepare well. Thank you.